Let's go.
Speaking of confusing things, though, Bull.
Yeah.
I laughed at your tweet yesterday. Shams reported a trade in the NBA. And, Steve, you can take this tag board full here. And it was a 4-pick trade. Phoenix traded their 2031 unprotected first to Utah for 3 first-round picks. The Suns are acquiring the least favorable first in 2025 of Cleveland and Minnesota, 2027 of Cleveland, Minnesota, Utah, and 2029 Cleveland, Minnesota, Utah, to which Bull then quote tweeted, "Try saying that 5 times fast," which I did think was a
that's a mouthful there, that trade. But
it is.
And I was thinking, and then I texted you and Jason, I'm like, why did the Cavs make that trade?
Well, that's what we're going to ask right now. So, to put the trade into context for people, essentially the Jazz consolidated the picks they got in return, or the pick swaps they got in return for the Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert trades to Phoenix for an unprotected asset in 2031. So that pick in 2031 that they got back from Phoenix, no protections. If they get the number 1 overall pick, that is Utah's number 1 overall pick. In the NBA, you could obviously protect picks, and those are the pick swaps, so it's the worst of the 3 picks from those 3. From Phoenix's perspective, they now have 3 first-round picks they can trade. They were in the similar situation to Cleveland where they couldn't trade a first-round pick until 2031. They now have 3. So pretty creative move in terms of acquiring assets, and for Utah's standpoint, in terms of getting a better asset at what they could be as opposed to what they think the Cavs and the Timberwolves will be in those 2027, 2029 years. So, Bull, do you think this was a missed opportunity for the Cavs? And is there another opportunity to make a similar deal like this?
I don't know enough about what you'd have to find another bad team that has multiple draft picks in multiple years to be able to make the similar time.
Is that team out there, Mike? Because that was my question.
Yeah. Okay. There are 4 teams right now that have 10 or more picks in the first round of the next 7 drafts.
That's incredible.
The Thunder, the Jazz, the Spurs, and the Nets. The Thunder, we mentioned they have 12 picks. There's no way they're helping Cleveland.
They're not making a trade with Cleveland.
No,
obviously not. The Jazz just did it.
The Spurs might.
So the Spurs are interesting, but back on draft day this previous year, they traded the number 7 pick in this most recent draft, who became Rob Dillingham, who's a rookie for the Timberwolves, 2030 and 2031 unprotected. So they already have their future.
And they're on the rise now. They're on the rise. They're like about to go into a contention window, don't you think?
Yes. They're in the playoff hunt right now. They're not real contenders.
So they're not contenders yet, but they're not far away.
And then the Nets are the other team, and they're kind of an interesting situation.
Because you're trying to trade with them for Cam Johnson.
And if you acquired those picks, those were picks that you would want to send to Brooklyn for Cam Johnson. So would Brooklyn send you picks that you're going to then send back? Whole thing. So I don't know if there's a team out there.
Can you even do that? Yeah, I mean,
I don't think they would, Mike.
I don't think there's a deal.
Yeah, that's the problem. There's not a team. Now, I'm not going to kill Koby Altman because he's done an amazing job. First of all, that type of trade, it never even crossed my mind to make a trade like that, but it's actually really smart.
When I read it, I said the same thing. I'm like, can you even do this? And I never would have thought of that either.
Yeah.
We were even discussing options that the Cavs had on Monday, and this never came up.
Didn't think
so
of it either.
Kudos to them for thinking that way.
Well, that would have been a good trade for the Cavs.
You need a dance partner, and I don't know who it is.
I wonder why the Cavs did, and maybe they did, and maybe ultimately the Jazz decided that who did they do it with? The Jazz may have decided that Phoenix has a better chance of being bad going into the 2031 draft than the Cavs do. Maybe the Cavs were in on it for all I know, but and probably, right, Mike, it's likely, I mean, if you had to bet now who's going to be a worse team in 2030, as crazy as that seems, you'd probably bet on Phoenix more than
that
the
is
Cavs.
such a long-term.
Listen, Kevin Durant is old enough at this point.
Yeah.
In 2031, I can't imagine
no.
Maybe. They're in a terrible cap situation.
Yeah.
Like that 2031 unprotected pick, Phoenix could be a dumpster fire by
And the
then.
Cavs might be bad by then, too. Like, we have no idea. It's 5 years from now. Really,
yeah, but I
6
think
years from
to
now,
your point, if I'm projecting,
if
which
I
is
had to
almost
bet,
impossible to do,
Right.
you have no idea what the next 5 years will bring.
Right.
But because the Cavs are young and signed and on the rise, I would easily bet that Phoenix is going to be a better attractive pick over Cleveland.
So for all we know, Koby Altman was in that conversation, and they just, smartly for them, probably picked Phoenix.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting way to get back draft picks to trade that you don't have I never really thought about.
I didn't either, Mike. Are you okay with that? Like, I don't think you should be allowed to do that.
Why not?
I just don't. I don't like this idea that you're trading assets 5 years out. Like at the NFL, they don't. You can't. I've never heard of that. I've heard of it in the NFL
can.
3
I just
years
don't
out.
think
You can trade first
I don't know
round
if
picks
there's a
up to
rule
7
against
years
it.
out.
In the NFL?
No, in the NBA.
Yeah,
7
okay.
years
No,
out.
in the NBA, I know you can. To me, I just think like, and I know the draft is much different in the NBA than it is in the NFL.
Yeah.
You build through the draft.
Also in the NFL, you can trade as many first-round picks as you want.
Can you? I didn't know.
Yeah,
because I've never heard a team trading more than 3.
I don't think teams have traded more than 3 ones in a year, but the Rams, I think, traded their first-round pick in different trades like 6 years in a row.
Yeah, they didn't have it this year.
No, I know that. I know that. I'm talking about looking out.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if there's a limit. I've never heard of a team trading 4 first-round
Agreed,
picks.
but I also never heard of there being a rule against it.
I haven't either.
I don't know, but
I just assumed that there was.
in the NBA, the fact that you can't trade consecutive first-round picks, I don't like that rule. You should be able to.
Yeah.
I know they did it because of Stepien here in Cleveland.
Yes.
But
Way back.
I think they should get rid of that rule.
You have to give smaller market teams an opportunity to be creative because major market teams, no matter if you got a salary cap or not, have an advantage.
They do.
So you have to give small market teams a little bit of ways to get and say, I could get creative with my free agency. I get creative with my trades. You have to give them away because people will just be like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Miami and take this money and have no state taxes.
But how do big market teams have an advantage in the NBA?
Well, through players, I think, and I think that's maybe where you want to. If you ask where destination-wise, all things being equal,
I see.
they want to be in Miami because there's no tax, or Orlando. But there's other things too. People want to go to LA. That's why LeBron's there.
That's true.
People want to go to New York.
People-
Who says when they're a kid and they're from a coastal city, it's my dream to grow up and play for the Milwaukee Bucks?
Especially when they're free agents. And so you want to give especially when you're free agents and you've served your time, so to speak.
But they have that advantage because they can offer more than the other team.
Yes.
So there is already a small built-in advantage.
So that's why they do things like that.
Right. I agree with that.
I think it's more about the sexiness of the market rather than the big market, but it goes hand in hand a lot.
I think they do
Like
go
nobody's
hand in hand.
flocking to Chicago, which is a big market in basketball.
You're right.
But I get what you guys are saying. You're right. Now, money talks in the end, but there's just so much. It really has a lot to do with how much the owner is willing to spend above the cap, just like in football.
Yep.
Right. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to.
And ultimately, the biggest advantage for football is, at least it seems, I don't know that this is definitely the case, that market size is almost irrelevant.
It is
in football.
irrelevant.
I mean,
Green Bay's the smallest market in pro sports, yet are they ever not in the playoff conversation?
Right,
Not in my lifetime. I can't remember.
And there's no, like when you hear, in basketball is really the only sport that you hear the idea of players choosing because they like the city or something cool about the city. In baseball, it has more to do with money than it does the city itself, I think.
Sasaki just picked L.A.
I think
I think there's a lot of reasons he picked
Sasaki
LA.
just picked L.A. because he wanted to be on the West Coast. I know it's a unique situation.
I think it's a
but
three.
the money was equal with him.
It's a
Yeah, it has to do
three-pronged
with the
system.
team more than, but it wasn't because of money. You're right.
Baseball is the bag. Basketball is the lifestyle. But football, like I've always said it, football is a cult. Football is a religion.
Yep.
So
God called Reggie White to Green Bay.
like when you have fans that don't care nothing about nothing, football will last forever. So therefore, you could be a god in Green Bay or Jacksonville or wherever the case may be, because the people, like, it's part of our culture. So
all your games are on national TV, essentially.
all of them.
Yeah.
And so that's
but
a
it
big
is still
difference.
about the bag in football. But the thing in football is, for the most part, for the superstars, which is what you care about, every team is willing to give them the bag.
And especially because you
You
can
know.
draft a quarterback and then your team can be good.
And for
Right.
Sasaki, too, I don't know that we talked about this. I haven't talked about this with you, but one of the things that I had insisted, he's going to the Dodgers, and that's it. Because there was a cap on his earning potential. What I said was, if I'm him or his representatives, I'm saying, okay, you can make a minimum amount as a player, but if you go where Shohei is, and all of your games are seen in Japan, your ability to make outside sponsorship money is far greater. If you go to Milwaukee,
Very different, yeah.
Nobody in Japan is watching all of your games.
But what you should be upset about, the cheating contract is deferring your payment. How did you let Shohei Ohtani get that off? That is the
that's a
most
problem.
cheatiness.
That's a whole different.
Like that's wild.
And baseball will address that. I think they have to.
Like, just give me $500,000 and put this in an annuity.
No, it's like
and
$2 million, right? I think that's all he makes.
He's deferring $68 million a year.
How can you do that?
I mean, it's insane.
Like,
Well, for one
And
thing,
since then, every player they've signed has deferred at least some money.
and
Every
if I'm
player.
the Dodgers, I'm going to continue to do it until Major League Baseball
Well,
tells
in the
me I
past,
can't.
it wasn't a big deal because in the past, players really rarely wanted to do
want their
that,
money
and
now,
now
right?
they've all done it.
Well, you know what? I think the smartest contract in the history of sports is still Bobby Bonilla's.
Still good.
And I know it's, whatever. It's $1
Yeah,
million
yeah.
a year on July, whatever Bobby Bonilla Day
Yeah.
is. But the fact that he hasn't swung a bat for them in 20 years and he's still getting $1 million a year.
Best contract is his, and then Allen Iverson's deal with Reebok.
Yeah.
What was his? I remember
Lifetime.
it was gargantuan.
Lifetime.
They gave him a lifetime deal, but then they took $40 million and said you couldn't touch it until you was like 50 something.
And if ever a player needed it, it was
it
Allen
was
Iverson.
AI. Yeah, he was like, listen, we know your lifestyle, dog. Like,
Yeah. We're going to hold
So
this
to-
side for you.
To
It's like a
answer the
trust.
question
Yeah.
that we kind of started this with, is there a trade partner for the Cavs to make a deal like this? I don't see it,
I
but
don't
that
either.
doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It could be out there. I just don't see it.
I
All right,